Okay, so today is day number 6, and today is all about all things health. And I believe that your health is probably the most valuable asset you have, and do not take it for granted, basically would be my advice to my younger self. I personally, I went through a bit of a health scare when I was about 22, and of course I've had lots of mini injuries here and there, and it's so true that you only really begin to appreciate your health when it's taken away. But I really wish that people wouldn't have to go through that, that they could learn to appreciate from the start. And so I personally, I think that this comes in, of course, we're exercising, we're eating well, we're doing all these things, and we're taught all these things. And I think a lot of people do those things, but there are elements that we don't consider in terms of listening to our bodies and what they're trying to tell us. And this body is very good at communicating to us if we listen. And so I think the biggest advice I would give myself is your health is something that you need to cultivate an understanding of. And I think some of that comes down to being aware of this body and feeling what it feels like for it to be healthy, and then feeling what it feels like when it is out of balance. And so if you are, I think so many times that I became sick, and the time that I got very sick when I was 22, there were so many signs and signals and things that my body was trying to tell me, and I just ignored. I was super stressed. I was not getting enough sleep. I was running on low. I was not eating well. I was over exercising because I thought that I was sitting at a computer all day and studying and this and that, and because I was so stressed, I had to get the energy out somewhere, that nervous energy out of me. And so I would run until I couldn't run anymore, and that was exhausting my body. And so I was just really pushing myself to my breaking point, and so my body really was asking me to stop and slow down, and I didn't. So I truly believe that your health, and when your body presents you with illness and presents you with sickness, it's really just its way of saying, I just need a minute to just deal with whatever you've just been throwing at me. And I think sometimes mentally we can push through things more so than we should. And so I think if I could go back and tell myself to bring up daily practice of awareness and to cultivate an understanding of this body that I'm in, have a respect for it, and just respecting the body that I'm in, and understanding its quirks. It's kind of like owning a car. It's like you get given a car, and you can it's secondhand, and you can make it look pretty and put in all these extra things that make it look a certain way and replace certain parts of the engine, but it's gonna have its quirks. It's an old secondhand car, and it's gonna have its things, and sometimes you have to jiggle this and oil that, and that's gonna be what makes it run smoothly and properly. And it needs regular checks and whatever. I don't know enough about cars for this metaphor to be accurate, but it's our vehicle that we are riding every day we are driving every day to allow us to get through this life. And so we need to be taking care of it. And so I think if I could, so basically with myself, in terms of what I do, is over the years, I think just through trial and error, I've learned where my limits are. But I think being able to, for example, like I know that I can go a couple of days without my 8 hours sleep. Like right now I'm actually really low on sleep, and that's been because I've been really putting my energy into lots of things. But I now know that, okay, so I've reached my day 5 of not sleeping properly. And in the past I've been like, okay, I've done 5 days and I'm just gonna power through. And I've just got all this stuff to do, and that's got to happen first before I can sleep. And I guess that has a time and a place, but I know that in order for me to show up as my best self in my work, in the things that I'm doing, in my own health, will be compromised if I keep showing up to those things without consideration of this body. And so I can kind of feel myself getting sick, I can feel myself a bit run down. And I know that if I don't listen, it will throw something at me to force me to slow down. And so I just have little practices that I do to slow down and to listen in and to really check in how I'm feeling. And I also, so like noticing if I'm feeling tired or cranky and just being aware of that, and sometimes just giving myself a minute to breathe and giving myself lots of coffee. But then also creating space for myself too. For example, this week I'm just really tired, and tonight I had some stuff that I was going to do, but I'm just clearing out the calendar and clearing out some space, and I'm probably going to go to bed at 8, and that feels really good to me. And I also make sure I'm eating the right foods to make sure I'm fueling my body so that I can do things that I want to do. And just longer term, just taking care of my health is something that is so essential for me, because I know that when I am active and I'm moving my body and I'm eating well and I'm taking care of just all the things that involve this body, it clears a better space for my mind. It clears air and space for me to be showing up in the best way. And I think when it comes to kids, sharing this with them, I was actually having a conversation with someone today, and we were talking about just being a model and showing up in a way that allows kids to have a space for that. And so I think, again, it's just modeling this idea that you're allowed to feel tired, and when you are tired, like, kids have this a lot. Well, they'll get really tired and they just get really upset. And I think being able to acknowledge, like, I've had moments where I'm so tired that I start crying, and I'm just like, I can't. And so I think as an adult with a kid, acknowledging their state, their physical state, it's like, are they eating, like, in terms, that's actually, you know what, this is so much more valid. In terms of the way that you interact with a kid, be mindful of their state and when they're interacting with you. It's like, have they eaten? Are they tired? Is this? It's like, and you know what, you can totally apply that to just anybody, any human, not even a child. Like, if you're in a fight with your partner, or a really good friend, or having a quarrel with a colleague at work, it's like, is that coming from a place of like their truest best self, or are they not taking care of themselves physically in a way that may make them show up short, that may make them show up in a way that is not their best self? And so I can't remember I heard this, I never remember I heard it, but I was listening to something, and they're talking about when you have an argument with your partner, make sure that their needs of a toddler are met. So have they eaten, have they slept? And I forget the third, but it was, so just being a space for kids and letting them realize that it's okay to be tired, and if you're tired, being aware of that is really important. There was a kid at the daycare today, and he was just so tired all morning. I could just see it in his eyes, and I asked him, I was like, he's very in tune, I was like, are you tired? He's like, mm-hmm. And we kind of were heading toward lunch, and he was just done, and he started to kind of get overwhelmed and not know what to do with that emotion. And so bringing in awareness of, I'm tired, I just need to go to bed right now. That's what my best decision is in this moment. or it may look like you're having a big week at work and then you've got a big weekend planned. It's like, okay, maybe do you need to clear some space in your calendar to have just some quiet downtime? Do you need to, if you have a pretty busy work schedule, do you need to clear space to make sure that you have some routines and rituals in your week that allow you to have some space to just check in with your body, to feel what's feeling and to notice, just to become aware? And with kids, just again, allowing them that open space. And so yeah, if kids are always just going and not having, like, kids love to move and play and just, they don't want to stop. And so I think it's actually really important to teach kids to slow down, to connect. And when they're go, and then something happens, there's no moment to really have prepared for that, how to react in that moment. It's kind of like if you were to do, I don't know, you're going to run a marathon or a half marathon or something like that. Like, you've got to train for that moment. You kind of show up on a day and run that full thing, like, and know your body's going to know what to do and like react like that. Or if you're into a sport and you're, I don't know, if you're skiing, I ski. If I'm skiing and I go really fast, if I don't have that experience to back me and something happens and I need to stop on a dime, if I don't have that experience and reaction to make that happen in that moment, it's just gonna not go very well. And I think the same thing can happen in kids. And so if they're going and they're never really having a moment to check in with their body, they're never going to be, like, when they're really highly emotional, be able to have that awareness around, right, I am quite emotional right now and I need to bring it back down. And it's basically coming down to like a self-regulation of themselves, being able to regulate their own emotional state and their own physical state, and assessing, like, am I hungry, am I tired, am I this, am I that? And of course that comes with age. But even, like, gosh, I've had times as an adult where I've ignored, like, I've heard the call, but I've ignored it because this is more important, and it's like, your health is the most valuable asset you have, and if you compromise it and you lose it, it affects everything. And if you've, like, been in bed unable to do the things you want to do because you're sick, it's just the worst feeling. It is the worst feeling. And so putting in things in place to understand these calls. And so I would really love to see kids beginning to, you know, just as part of their day, beginning to acknowledge their own feelings and, like, talking, like, starting a conversation with, what does hunger feel like in your body? Like, describe that feeling. What does sadness feel like in your body? Where do you feel sadness? When you are angry, like, what kind of feeling does angry come up in your body? And so I guess with kids, it comes down to, I guess, emotional understanding, having a capacity to understand emotions and to dive into what those feel like in your body. And I think having an awareness of what that is can really help you to, if you're like, okay, so when I get angry, I feel like a tightness in my sternum. When I get angry, I just get hot and I just get like energetic, like I want to move. And so I know that when I get into that state, I need to simmer it down. I need to remove myself from the situation. And then, of course, knowing what the result is. So, okay, this is the thing that comes up. What do I need to do to problem solve this particular emotion, or this particular physical state that is showing up in this moment? And so I think that too, and in terms of, like, the foods you're eating, I think just being able to assess, I think it would be really kind of cool to discuss with kids after they've eaten things, noticing if you're eating really heavy foods, how that feels in your body. Like, if you've eaten a really big dinner and you eat a lot and you eat to the point where you're too full and it's like, oh, I just feel heavy and sluggish. And being able to acknowledge that, and of course kids need way more food than we do, but being able to acknowledge that feeling, as a state, may help a kid down the line to recognize they are full and they're not going to just be stress eating or emotional eating or eating out of boredom. A lot of kids eat out of boredom. I definitely have in the past eaten out of boredom. And so if you're in tune with your body and you're understanding what that means, you're going to be able to override that. And I think as well, certain emotions can come up if we're not moving our bodies enough, or if we're moving our bodies too much, as I was saying before, we can need to have a moment to slow down and recognizing those things. I think every time I've had a big injury in the sports I've done, it's because I was tired, but I went up anyway. And in skiing and biking, it's code of conduct. You never say you're doing your last run, because there's something about on the last run everyone gets hurt, and so it's it's the second last one, and it's if someone says it's the second last one, it's code for we're done. Because there's something about when you commit to being done, you're oh, okay, I'm tired, I'm ready to switch off now. And it's you're tired and you're just going to do one more, and that's when it starts to happen. So being able to be yeah, I'm tired, I'm going to call it a day, or I'm angry, I'm going to cool off. And again, just having things that we put in place ahead of time to ward off any potential of these things arising in us. So it's if you have a really active lifestyle and have kids that are super go, 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 it's what is something relaxing that they do like to do apart from TV? Do they like to color? Do they like to listen to some music? Do they like to read a book? Do they like building Lego? And just being able to set a tone. There's something really powerful about being able to set the tone for a time. So when I used to teach yoga to kids, we would have time where it was energetic, go, 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 and then it would be okay, so now we're going to have a little meditation, we're going to have a little quiet, we're going to have a little lay down. And at first kids would be mad the whole session. And then the more and more we got into the routine of this is the loud time and then this is the quiet time, the more they began to know that the quiet time will end and that it's only a short time, and it won't go forever. And then they get to be even more excitable. And so I think over I would teach the same group for a couple of months, and over the 3 months or so that I would teach one group, I would see such a huge change in them. They would be so much more relaxed. They would happily lay there, and we do this really cute thing where they put their little toy on their bellies and they watch it go up and down to watch their breathing, which brings in awareness of breathing, which is just another part of their body that they're exploring. Really good thing to do with young ones. Get their favorite toy and put it on their belly and they watch it go up and down. And yeah, so just having a tone of some time of the day, either first thing in the morning or there's a time just before bed or something where you're okay, so this is the quiet time of the day. And at first maybe it's going to look like they're loud and crazy, and you may feel the desire to be shh. But just if you're setting the tone and you put on some nice quiet music and everyone's relaxed, maybe you dim the lights and do some candles and whatever, and you're setting the tone for the room and you're saying this is quiet time. And eventually, if you are engaging in something quiet, maybe you're reading a book, maybe you just say, if they're loud and crazy, you just go, we're just gonna have some rest time right now. Or you could do it in someone was saying in a school assembly, an old teacher was saying that at their school, in an assembly would do they'd set the tone for the assembly, so they'd have incense and, or the other nice smelling stuff, the diffusers, and they'd like turn the lights off, and this assembly would be like a sharing time, and I loved it. I thought it was just the best thing ever. And anyway, that's a whole nother story, but it's just setting the intention, and it just, the kids respond to that, and they know that it's a time for relax, it's time for jam. And I think I actually even do that with myself sometimes. Like I'll, if I'm having a really like high stress, anxiety ridden day, if I'm like mentally not in a place to bring myself down, like if I am really tired and I'm really stressed and I'm wondering what, and I'm not addressing my body in a way that helps me bring my mind to a calm place, sometimes I have to calm my environment, which helps me calm my body, which then I can tackle the problems that are going on in my mind. So yeah, that's this is number 6, is your health is everything, and your health comes in so many different shapes and forms, and I think a lot of that really just comes down to not overdoing it, just creating some space to listen to your body. And it's got it's such a good feedback system, and it will tell you what it needs when it needs it, and we just need to start to become in tune with this body, and listening to things like hunger cues, and listening to things like I'm tired, and listening to things like I'm stressed, and hearing that and going, okay, I'm stressed, I'm tired, and then finding ways to combat that, finding ways to bring things into your life that will create a change for those things, and restore that healthy balance, keeping everything on the up and up. So that's day 6. And with that, I am going to go to sleep in about half an hour.